David Stalcup. I'm Chief Technical Architect of Sanity Solutions, which is a Denver value-added reseller. I've been with Sanity just about 10 years now. I've spent probably about 60 hours putting this content together. And so what this presentation is about, it's really geared toward people who are just going down the path of thinking about hyperconverged infrastructure, going down that path of starting to evaluate and maybe trying to decide if it's something that they're interested in for their architecture. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to define hyperconvergence. We're going to give examples of convergence, business drivers, right? Why are people adopting this technology? Competitors that are out there. We'll look at a small subset of the competitors because it's a very crowded field. Impact of future technology that's starting to change the designs of hyperconvergence. And then we'll talk about the shifting business thought process here. Because when you adopt this type of architecture, it's really important that you understand its capabilities, and more importantly, you understand how you have to re-architect the teams that manage that resource. So let's take Forrester, for example, and use their definition of hyperconvergence, right? It is an approach to technology infrastructure that packages server storage and network functions, right, into a software layer which discovers the entire pool. Now, what happens is, once we have this pool of resources, we put this wrapper around it that makes it very easy and very integrated, and then we can abstract that and then be able to manage this across federated environments. So ultimately what happens is we wind up with this complete abstraction where we have virtual memory, virtual storage, virtual network, and virtual management. And if we look at this in the physical sense, we have the hardware layer, right? And we have the virtualization or abstraction layer here. And then everything's presented in the application form of platform as a service or IT as a service. Keep in mind, to me, what's most important is going to be APIs that actually give you the capability to integrate all this into a single pool. That's really important. Now, convergence is not a new idea. And judging by most of you in here in the age range, right? If you think about convergence, the first time you ran across convergence, do you remember what it was? And I'm talking about going way back to childhood, right? You've got peanut butter, mine chocolate, right? And that's really the whole concept of hyperconvergence. We're taking a couple of products and we're bonding them together, right? And we get something that's really unique and special. In our day-to-day life, right, in our pocket or our purse, right, we have our cell phone, which is a great example of a hyperconverged appliance, right? Because this little cell phone now, not only is it a telephone, but it's also a video camera, offers us GPS services, a media player, right? And so many more options from a single platform. And again, hyperconvergence, what is it, right? Well, we're going to take all these physical attributes, system management, virtualization, storage network, and compute, and we're just going to compress all that down into one easy to manage, easy to scale appliance. So there are four characteristics to hyperconvergence, right? So the first is just simply combining x86 components, right? We're going to combine that with hypervisor, server, storage, right, and networking. And again, these are all off-the-shelf components. And we turn all that to a single building block, right? We aggregate that single building block with a high degree of automation. And then again, we have this capability to manage this single building block that is now scaled out across federated environments. The 7 keys to hyperconvergence. First and foremost is elasticity. We want to have the ability to not only expand but contract the environment. As we get into this presentation a little bit more, we're going to talk about things like cloud bursting and cloud orchestration that will give us the ability to rely on an external source to kind of supplement our on-premise capability. VM centricity, right? We all know what that is. It's that ability to virtualize. Data protection. In the HCI environment, we're starting to see not only traditional RAID, but we also see things like erasure coding, data distribution models, things such as that help us protect the data. VM mobility. We want to have the ability to take that virtual server and be able to migrate the hardware that can support the performance demands to it. So if we start to get some excess operations going on there, we want to be able to have that VM be transient so it goes to the appropriate hardware. High availability, right? In an HCI model, we have the ability to withstand single and multiple drive failures and single and multiple node failures as well. Data efficiency, right? This comes with data reduction. There's both types, deduplication and compression. And then here, you'll also see bandwidth reduction as well. And what they mean by that is there is one of the HCI manufacturers has coined the phrase data locality. What that means is it's placing the actual data set with the virtual machine on the same physical host. This helps eliminate east-west traffic in your network. And then finally, cost efficiency. You will see that as these environments begin to scale, and as you begin to refresh these environments years down the road, it becomes a very cost-effective way to do that. So let's talk about the adopting factors here. First and foremost, it's what is driving this, right? This is incredible category of growth. What's driving it is, well, one, virtualization, which has been around for over a decade. But the supplemental fact here is NAND flash. And so NAND flash, as you all know, has become very pervasive in probably most environments. The cost has gone way down, performance, right, is really quite impressive. And so when you combine NAND flash with virtualization, you really get the key components to HCI. So if you look at this continuum of convergence, right, go back to the early 2000s, right, there was this big move to consolidate blades, right? A lot of people were getting into blade servers, and they thought that really was the way of the future. Well, it turned out it really wasn't. So then we started to get this preferred architecture model where people would come out and they would test storage subsystems with specific servers, and we started to get this converged architecture model going. And now today we have this hyperconverged. Well, we're not done with that yet. What's going on in the marketplace is that we have these appliances readily available. Some of the vendors now are starting to shift to all software model, so they're completely agnostic of the hardware that lies underneath. And then ultimately what you'll see is this infrastructure with microservices, right? Most people would leverage the same containers. And if we look at the sales trends here, we go back to 2012. 2012 was when really the first time that data was being tracked for hyperconverged appliances. And you can see that in the red here, this is traditional storage, right? And by the time this chart ends in 2027, you can see that sales of traditional storage are going to be almost non-existent. And so the thing as a consumer, what you have to look at is when you see a precipitous drop in sales here, the thing that's going to go away is research and development dollars will go away, right? And so as the server stands and the converged infrastructure start to grow in sales, R&D dollars will get shifted more and more into those categories. So at some point, there are people that are resistant to moving to an HCI environment, understandable at this point. But in the future, right, with R&D dollars disappearing like that, you're going to be forced to move that way. So let's look at some of the adoption reasons why people start to look at it. Right? So for primary drivers, improve operation efficiency, cost reduction, hardware upgrade, refresh, and data center consolidation. The one I think as a reseller, what we see quite a bit of is this VDI initiative. People want to put their toes in the water a little bit and say, I want to create a silo, and I want to try virtual desktop, on HCI appliance. And if we look at the purchase criteria, right? So prospective customers in the red, and I think this is what's interesting here, is that prospective customers, right, their biggest goal here is high availability. And you can see as we go through this chart how it just kind of distributes itself in a different way. And then you get down to hypervisor support. And for the people that actually purchase this, that becomes more important than the prospective customers. And there's a really big reason why that is. So when you go to the benefits expected, right, again, you start to see this dichotomy between prospective clients and actual people who bought it. So the current adopters in red now, so this is kind of flip versus the planned adopters. And I always find this really interesting, right? The planned adopters, their expectation is reduce cost. But if you've actually already adopted HCI, you see that really isn't that big of a deal. I always find that fascinating. And then you can see down further the chart, the improved backup and recovery becomes very important from the planned adopters. But then the people who have adopted it, there's a bigger philosophy that goes behind that, not only with HCI, but leveraging cloud and things like that. And then the improved operational efficiency. Right? Planned adopters, again, they're expecting this really big benefit in operational efficiency. People who have already adopted it, they may not see that efficiency so much. And then for the non-believers, how come people aren't looking at this? Typically, you're in the beginning of a refresh cycle. And what I mean by that is you've just purchased new equipment, or perhaps there's no need in the environment to actually refresh at this point in time, or you simply just don't have a driver, an application or anything that you can leverage that with. So, we're going to talk about some of the current manufacturers that are in this space. Now, this is not quite all of them, and during presentations, I always like to tell people there are certain slides that if you remember nothing else, remember this one. And this is one of those slides you really need to remember. Although the slide is very simple in nature, it tells a very good story. And that story is what we see in IT today is consolidation, right? As we just saw recently, for example, Dell bought UC. In the Hyperconverged Infrastructure arena, what we see, we're seeing expansion, right? And what happens when we see this rapid expansion is because there's this unmet need by the consumer side, on the enterprise, and people really want this kind of technology. Ultimately, what's going to happen is this market, this number of manufacturers is unsustainable. So I have one word of caution as you go down this path. Not only is it important for you to look at the technology of a certain manufacturer, but you also need to understand the business model of that manufacturer. Because I guarantee in the next 12 to 18 months, there will be a handful of names up here that aren't going to be around anymore, that they've been bought out, and the business has simply gone away. So again, to me, very important slide. If we look at the Foresight wave chart, right, which looks at the hyperconverged infrastructure market, it's pretty interesting. The leaders are in the upper right-hand corner, and the diameter of the circle that represents the company also indicates market share. So clearly, Nutanix and Simplicity are the leaders in the market. Pivot 3 is close behind. Pivot 3 is interesting because the idea of hyperconverged infrastructure really began about 2009. Pivot 3 was the first company that actually developed this concept back in about 2005-2006 timeframe. They used it for security analysis and video capture. If you prefer to look at Gartner, great timing. This was just published on Monday, actually. Gartner looks at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, EMC, Nutanix, and Simplicity as kind of the 4 top players in that market. So let's go through some of these manufacturers and give you just a little overview. The Atlantis Hyperscale. Atlantis has done very well, and they're incredibly aggressive, particularly from the price point. And so they have some interesting technology where they actually treat memory as a tier. And so what we know about that, from our storage days, right, is that if I can leverage memory as a tier, the storage behind that can be less performant, right? And if it's less performant, it's more cost effective, which gives me that opportunity to drive prices down. So Atlantis has done a very good job positioning the product, leveraging this kind of technology. Again, the caution here is they don't publish any of their financial results. When companies begin to sell their product at a very aggressive price, they can only do that for so long. So again, just kind of a cautionary tale. The Cisco HX product, it's the HyperFlex. It's a product that Cisco purchased from SpringPath. And so Cisco has had this multi-pronged approach to HCI. And what they've done is they've leveraged other manufacturers, matter of fact, like Atlantis, like SimpliVity, put it on their own hardware. Now what becomes appealing with HyperFlex is that they use their own servers, so they can integrate with the 220 and the 240. And if you're a big fan of UCS, they're now starting to roll out UCS models that leverage HyperFlex. So again, that becomes a pretty interesting adoption factor for people that have that kind of experience. Cisco is late to the game, so there's still a lot of feature sets they haven't rolled out yet. It's on the roadmap. Again, as you start to do research and you talk to different manufacturers, you always want to understand what does that roadmap look like. And so again, that's a very important point. Data direct. Now I've added some manufacturers in here that perhaps you may not have heard of or maybe you're not familiar with. DDN is famous for high performance, high capacity storage. DDN is looking at a niche market here, and they're trying to do the same thing with their hyperconverged products. They're looking at high performance, right? And so, in fact, with their product, they have a 4U box that can support up to 48 NVMe or PCIe flash cards. And so, again, they can do up to 60 gigabytes on a single device. Now, that kind of performance number is well above what most people need. But it also begs the question that if I can do that kind of performance, how do I deliver that payload, right? So it creates bottlenecks in the network, for example. EMC, the VX Rail, this is EMC's latest entry. They've done a wonderful job taking their Quantum product, which is the server here. It'll soon shift over to Dell hardware because of the acquisition. But they've taken their own management, take advantage of VMware, package it all together. It's a very scalable, very reliable product. Grid store. Earlier, when we went to the main page, we talked about how things can change and be wary of manufacturers. This is the first example of that. So Grid store is Microsoft-centric, and they used to come out with an appliance. They've now changed their name to Hypergrid. They've gone through another acquisition, and now they are a software only company. This is just all of recent change. Again, not good, bad, or indifferent at this point, but when you do see manufacturing do such a radical shift in the business model, it should be a red flag for you to do your homework and make sure that they are healthy and financially stable. Hitachi, although they do hyperconverge for general workloads, what they're really trying to do, and this is a company shift for them, is they're more interested in the Internet of Things. And so with their hyperconverged products, they're looking at building data lakes. They're focusing on data analytics. Matter of fact, they'll take Tahoe and integrate that in with their HCI products. And then they're really looking at how they can ingest data, be able to mine that data, manipulate it, and then be able to use that data right for the benefit of one organization. So again, this is really kind of a niche play here. But it's fascinating because we're starting to see segmentation now of HCI. Speaking of hyperconverged infrastructure, another company, right, that has a long track record that's taking its store virtual product and it's taking the warhorse, the DL380, integrating their own software, right, into a hyperconverged infrastructure architecture, right? So what happens is companies can get to the market really quick. Hewlett-Packard, again, like Cisco, was kind of late to this game, so they still have some development work lying ahead of them. But you can see that these companies can ramp up very quickly, right, by taking existing equipment or existing portfolios, merging those together to create this type of product. Nutanix, so this is the market leader. Nutanix, to date, is responsible for about 50% of the volume in hyperconverged infrastructure sales. They've done a really good job of changing their portfolio. As we get further into the presentation, we'll start to look at things that have changed, how they're driving change in the market. But again, this is the market leader, and they've done a very good job really trying to defend that position. Very impressive. The Oracle Supercluster, again, here's another niche player, right? Sure, they can do general workloads, but what they're trying to do now is they're trying to use the Spark server platform, leverage the M7, right, chipset, where they have actually 32 cores, ports, right, in the socket. And then they're very security focused. And so they actually can do encryption in silicon, which means they can actually encrypt data in memory, right? So they're very security focused and very high performance. So customers with SAP, that's kind of a big deal for Oracle folks. Pivot 3, again, as we mentioned earlier, these guys were really the first ones that developed hyperconverged infrastructure. They were really focused on security, analyzing data logs in real time, video capture, things like that. They recently, in the past year or so, they purchased the storage vendor NextGen. They've now integrated that kind of capability into their platform, and about half their sales are now general compute workload capable. So they're making that transition. Scale computing, again, kind of a smaller player in the market, really geared more toward the SMB. SimpliVity, with the Omni here, they are number 2 in the market, kind of that mid-tier player. They've done a really nice job with their product as well. And then really finally, these last two, StarWind. So StarWind is, again, new to the game with Hyperconverged, but they've actually got a virtual SAN product that's been around for about 10 years. Again, right, it's a manufacturer that's taking known technologies and integrating them right into this hyperconverged arena. Again, allows them to get to the market very quickly, take something that's tried and true, and get great results with it. Stratascale is a little different in the sense that they're really geared toward microservices. So as we start to go through, some of these manufacturers, you can really start to identify that each manufacturer really kind of brings something different to the game, right? And so now let's focus on microservices like Stratascale. Kind of puts them in the forefront of that category. And if that's something that you're really excited about doing as far as using containers and things like that, that may be a good option for you. And then partnerships are really prolific right now, and that's what's really going to shake out even more. For example, Nutanix and Dell, they have a big OEM agreement. Lenovo and SimpliVity, but SimpliVity is also with Supermicro, obviously with Lenovo here, Cisco, with Dell, with HP. Atlantis is the same way. Atlantis will dance with all 5 server manufacturers as well. So you see this proliferation of agreements going on. And again, not good, bad, or indifferent at this point in time. What will happen is some of these agreements are going to go by the wayside. So I want to talk about a couple of acquisitions that happened back in August. And the reason I want to talk about these is that they're really going to put a lot of pressure in the market because a lot of other companies are going to try to catch up. Nutanix is the company that purchased Pernix Data. So Pernix Data was a software manufacturer that has the capability to do in-memory processing, right? Kind of a caching mechanism, if you will. They also have a very good monitoring tool that can really help you detect bottlenecks within the hardware. And so Nutanix went out and they purchased Pernix Data. Now in the same swoop, they went in and they bought another company called Calm.io. And so Calm.io is going to offer an orchestration piece. And this is really the next-gen move by Nutanix. And so what's going to happen is, as more and more people start to embrace hyperconverged, that overhead that we've always had with our hardware, I mean, if you guys think back, 10, 12 years before you adopted, virtualization, right? You may have servers that are using 5% of your CPU, maybe you're using 10% of the RAM, right? And really that was the genesis for virtualized servers, right? I've got all this overhead that I'm not using, how can I be more efficient, right? Enter the picture of virtualization. The next kind of movement here is going to be, I don't want to keep a lot of overhead of capability on premise, right? I want to have that ability now where I can do something called cloud bursting. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But I can leverage external clouds, right, for bursting capability. So when I have spike demand in I/O, I can actually go out through this orchestration layer, and I can actually get more resources out. So the register, after these purchases went through, the register had a great quote, and I'll read this to you. It says, well, this acquisition two-step cause repercussions in the HCI vendor club as Nutanix competitors see a need to strengthen their own offerings? That's the question, right? The answer, there is clear potential for this. And so the one Achilles heel that Nutanix has always had is that Nutanix has never gone out and certified workload on their systems. And so they haven't done it, and there's always been speculation why, but perhaps maybe they're not performing enough. The integration of Pernix data, that will clearly take that thought away. So let's look at some future tools here that are really making a big impact on HCI. So if you look at the far left of the drawing, right? It's like the far left, we've got mechanical drives. Now we all know in today's age we're using SSD as well, right? But if we start to look at the drawings on 3 and 4, what's missing, right? It's the I/O controller. And so by integrating something like NVMe, right, or M.2, I can bypass that I/O controller. I get closer to the processor. I tap into the PCI bus or the memory bus, and I actually bypass the SCSI protocol, right? So what does that mean? Well, it means I just drop latency down an incredible amount. So NVMe is really a technology that a lot of people are starting to raise towards. There was a big breakthrough in the last year. As you know, that with a traditional storage system, right, drives have to be dual ported. So you always have an A and B channel in case, as your modular system, you have a failure on the A side, right, and you have the B side available. Well, up until about 10 months ago, NVMe was single ported. Right? Intel made a breakthrough, now dual ported. We're seeing companies like DDN go out and adopt this dual ported NVMe technology. It's incredibly fast and wise. When we compare this to typical NAND drives, a NAND drive with a 12 gig interface, which is out today, we're looking at a workload of maybe 13,000 to 15,000 IOPS per drive. When we talk about NVMe, that workload, again, depending on read-write ratio, that workload is going to be more 300 to 5,000 IOPS. So again, very powerful. Again, just another view of this, as you can see with the stack, right, with the way it's been traditional, we have some kind of control in the middle, whether it's a single controller or a flash controller. We get to the new technology, we bypass that controller, we drop latency down to very low level. M.2, most of you are probably already familiar with this technology, right, because you probably see it in your laptops, you see it in desktops, right? Well, it's finally coming to the enterprise. The big deal about M.2 is that it taps into the memory bus. Right? Again, it gets me closer to the processor where we're doing all the workload. If I get closer to the processor, right, I cut latency down. Now, the thing about M.2 drives is that they'll initially come out 1 terabyte in size. They're planning to come out in 4 terabyte sizes fairly soon. And when you take a technology like this and then you marry it to a Pernix data that Nutanix bought, suddenly now I have this capability to do workloads of up to 4 terabyte on the memory bus. It becomes really a very low latency, very high IOP capability. 3D crosspoint. Again, probably something most of you have already heard about. The 3D is actually architectures being used in NAND flash today. Crosspoint is a new product which is going to be the next generation of storage. And it's going to supersede NAND flash here shortly as it starts to roll into production. Now the difference is NAND flash is a floating gate technology, right? So what I'll do is I'll insert electrical charge in the cell, and then the gate will trap that charge. And if there's no charge in there, then it determines the point of 0 in the cell. Phase change memory, which is going to come next with crosspoint, is different. I'm actually going to have a cell and I'm going to apply a charge to it. It's going to change the properties of the cell. It's either going to be conductive or resistant. What that means is, again, lowers the latency, much more highly performant, and there's no endurance concerns now when it comes to PCM. So why is this so important? Well, NAND flash came out in 1989, so Crosspoint in 2015 released, was announced last November. That really the first substantial movement forward in any kind of memory development. How fast fast is it that we talked about? It's almost 5.5 times faster than NAND flash. And I borrowed this slide from Intel. This is one of my favorite slides, just to kind of give you the opportunity to visualize how important cross-point is, right? So the topic, the header on the slide says, right, if these storage devices were sprinters, right? 15,000 RPM drive could sprint the length of a basketball court 94 feet, right? NAND flash could run a marathon in that same period of time, 26 miles, right? But 3D crosspoint is so fast that it could actually, in that same time frame, it could actually circumnavigate the globe. The 25 gigabit Ethernet consortium, right? So Arista, Broadcom, Nazi, Microsoft all got together, right? And they wanted to develop a new Ethernet capability. Now, as we've been talking, why is this important, right? Well, as we said earlier, we're generating all this I/O on the hardware now. We have to have the ability to deliver that payload. And with 10 gigabit, we can't do that, right? So anyway, these companies got together, they developed a 25 gig model. And the goal was they wanted to develop 25 gigabit, but have it as affordable as 10 gig, right? That was really key. And so they were able to do that, be able to get the same kind of port density on a switch as you do with 10 gig. In addition, what they've done is they double the lanes, and you can actually do 50. And there's a new 100 gig available now as well. The difference being the traditional 100 gig that's been out is actually 10 lanes of 10 gig. And it becomes very expensive to produce. The new standard is 4 lanes of 25, so it runs cooler, uses less power, and it's less expensive. And this is what's really telling for me. This line, this dotted line here, is 2 million ports, right, that have been sold. 10 gig took nearly 8 years, 7.5 years to achieve 2 million port sales. What was really dramatic is less than 3 years, 25 gig to achieve that same number. You look at 50 and 100 gig, just under 4 years. Right? To me, very powerful slide because we have this capability for this payload delivery, and we have this need for this greater bandwidth. NVMe fabrics. Now, this is going to be the networking that comes after what we just talked about with the 100 gigabit, right? And so this will tap over on the PCI bus. This will be able to deliver speeds maybe up into 400 gigabit or more. And again, it's in development right now. So very exciting changes that are coming. And then I mentioned this earlier, right? You have to have this ability, and this is where Calm.io acquisition by Nutanix was so key, is that you have to have this ability to talk to the cloud. Most people are still deploying on-premise, right? But if you have that ability to leverage something external, another source where I can actually leverage compute and storage, right? I have to have that ability to cloud burst and orchestration. And then automation. If you're not familiar with these names, you really should be. If your engineering team or administration team isn't familiar with these skill sets, I highly recommend that you start to go in that direction. So with orchestration tools like Puppet, Kubernetes, Chef, and SaltStack, these are really becoming very important as we start to leverage APIs and start to automate the capability within the HCI stack. And then finally, we're going to talk about, right, the people that are involved here, because this is really a shift in dynamic. So, in traditional architecture, 3-tier architecture, right, we have server administrators, we have network administrators, we have storage administrators, and maybe we have people that do that together, right? Well, think about this. With Hyperconverged, all those components now sit within the same platform. And so the teams that now manage this have to have a different skill set. They have to be more versatile. And as we mentioned in the previous slides, right, we have to have these scripting capabilities so we can automate a lot of these functions. So again, as you start to go down the pathway of talking about Hyperconverged, making the shift to 3-tier architecture, make sure that you're talking to your people as well, that they have the appropriate skill set. So which path is right for you? Well, you know, quite honestly, as we looked at the manufacturers and we talked about each one, they each offer something a little bit different, right? The people that you have on board today, they have certain skill sets that are specific to you. And then the business side has its own needs, right? And so this can be a very complex discovery process. And so I highly encourage you to work with a partner as you start to figure out which one's right for you. So this is something that I think we've run into fairly common, and it's people who have an aversion to risk, right? And I'm not talking about being reckless. What I'm talking about is, as technology changes, some people will tend not to change with it, right? This is a tectonic shift now in thought process where I'm taking three-tier architecture and pressing them all down into these building blocks, right? And so if you don't feel comfortable with that, you really may miss this opportunity to really grab onto some really great technology. So again, urge people, right, work with a partner, really understand what HCI is all about. Here's one thing that really saves you a lot of time, right? It's this pre-integration, pre-testing process. Right? So, matter of fact, if you're, say you're a VMware user today, which most people are, right? I have a hardware compatibility list. I have a matrix where I have to have certain drivers and everything has to be matching, right? Well, what's nice about HCI is that all that work is done every time for you. And then here is probably the big Achilles heel in the beginning for Hyperconverged, is that with this building block approach, most devices were particularly the same. Right? And so if I ran into a situation where I have plenty of compute, plenty of memory, but also an amount of capacity, what has to happen? Well, in the first couple of years, I have to go out and I have to buy all three again, just to address the capacity. Well, the market's changing, and so one of the things is that the manufacturers see that. And now you have the opportunity that if you need capacity, you can buy capacity nodes. If you need compute capability, you go out and buy compute nodes. And so the manufacturers have done a wonderful job in a short period of time reacting to what the needs of the market are. So Gartner, when they came out in 2015 with a report, they said, you know, the problem with hyperconverged is that it's a silo approach, right? I think most of my colleagues at Sanity would agree that, you know, people will come to us and say, you know, I really want to try it out for a virtual desktop, you know, and then I'll see how it goes from there. But as you've seen in this presentation now, right, I/O capability is dramatically improved, right? Networking capability is dramatically improved. That automation skill set that you need and that these products contain, right? It's starting to knock down those walls of being silo. And then with these changes, what you will see now is this broad adoption of HCI being able to do general compute in an entire environment. So then the final thought, right? People will say, okay, what does all this mean for me, right, as a buyer or consumer of HCI? What does it mean? And again, I urge people, make sure you understand what your business needs are first and foremost, right? What's the roadmap for your company? Is there anything innovative that you can do from a platform perspective that your company can do today? I think once you understand the direction of your own company, I think the decision of which HCI manufacturer product is best for you, it really becomes self-evident, right? Because again, IT is a